Okay, here today we're going to talk a little bit about our billet throttle cable bracket. This bracket was designed to actually meet the needs of people running an intake manifold with a 4150 or 4500 type flange on the top, so like a carburetor type flange, and using an elbow, a 90-degree elbow with a single throttle body. Here we've got a really nice CID intake manifold. There's a 4500 flange on the top, and we've got the Wilson billet elbow with the V-band type clamp to the 123 millimeter throttle body. This is a big boy here. That's about the size of a football, I think. So we've got a throttle body here that's going to require our wide base bracket. So just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here, we've got the base, wide base, standard base. We've got the stand and the retainer. So the only thing that's different on the two versions is the base itself. The stand and the retainer are the same. There's a series of holes in both of these right here. That allows you to move the stand back and forth. And then of course on the retainer, it swivels and it pivots to be able to get that alignment with the throttle body lever, to get that cable so you don't have too much bind or kink in it. Here the throttle cable bracket assembly is all mounted up to the base. Again, the bolts just go right through the base and the throttle body elbow itself. Notice how I start with the stand and the retainer in the center of the base here. There's equal distance on each side to the end. That's a good starting point. We'll go through the adjustments here in a minute. The next step is to go ahead and get that cable in there and get things dialed in. Here's the cable we're going to be using for this project. This cable is actually a LOKAR cable. It came with a ball and socket type of an end on it, and depending on your application that may work, may not. In this case, it needed actually a little bit bigger diameter threaded quarter 28 type of a bolt that goes into it, and this wasn't large enough. We opted for the Heim joint type spherical rod end. We bought this, and it actually keeps the cable a little closer to the actuator on the throttle blade itself, on the lever. Also, it's got a threaded portion here, and this is what's going to go into the retainer on the cable bracket itself, and we're going to show you here how that works. Remove the nut. Slide the cable itself through this little slot in the retainer. Tighten this up with a wrench. Then you can connect your cable end to the lever arm on the throttle blade. So probably one of the trickiest things to do here, and the most common question we get, is regarding how to make the cable pull the lever arm correctly. You can see, and this is how this one came when I actually received it, was that this cable is actually quite in line with where the point of connection is. It's not going to want to pull the lever over very well at all. It can be done, right? But it's very difficult, and then it wants to come over. So what we want to do is we want to get, if you take the axis of your cable right here and go perpendicular to it, you want to try and get as close to about 45 degrees on either side. So when it's at a rest on this way, be about 45 degrees, and the pivot's about 45 degrees here. Doesn't have to be exact, but the closer you get, the better. So this one actually has a screw right here. We can loosen this up, and we can pivot this independent of the shaft. Probably a couple different ways you could do this. We can kind of move this, and what we can do is we can set the throttle stop up. It's got a pretty long throttle stop location. So we're getting kind of closer here. Maybe come a little more. Okay, so now you can see we're getting a little bit closer. It'll be a little bit easier for that to grab a hold of that and actuate the lever. At that point, you're going to have to reset your throttle blade for idle. But once we tighten this down here, you can see how much easier it is to actuate. Now, not every throttle body has an adjustment like this. Some of them are fixed, that are welded to the shaft or something along those lines. There's a couple things you can do. You can actually move the hole where the cable connects to a different part on the shaft, or There's a number of things you can do there, be a little bit creative, but generally we've been able to make them work on just about everything. The other Wilsons often have a throttle stop location that can actually move, and you can actually reclock the whole thing, the whole lever arm and everything. So it actually works out pretty well. Sometimes you got to really look at it and kind of mess around with it to make your throttle arm be where you want it. So here you can see the cable alignment. You see you got a nice straight shot from the retainer on the cable bracket up to the connection point on the throttle blade lever arm. You know, try and get that as straight as possible. It is a cable. It can tolerate some mismatch, some misalignment. But you know, the closer the better. One thing to note too is that some of you guys have those elbows that they lay over. They're usually for like hood clearance under certain applications. You can actually get that cable level lower because the throttle body itself sits lower just by flipping this bracket upside down. Flip that around and it drops it down about 1/2 inch. Gives you a little bit better angle sometimes on those applications. Right here you can see you can store your football in here. That's about 123 millimeters, I guess there. So another thing too is to keep in mind, you can go ahead and connect your throttle return spring to either of these two holes, or there's a couple spots here you can do that, or connect something to a part of the base there. You can see there's a couple holes you can work with. Gives you a couple options to connect that with the the requirements of having multiple throttle return springs.